Hello, everyone. Hello, everyone, and welcome to this webinar. This is the fourth and last webinar of our Master Webinar series, and tonight we will be talking about the Masters of Business Analytics. I'm very glad to have here with me Dean Luis and two student ambassadors, Prateek and Marcelo. After this presentation, we will leave a session for Q&As. So feel free to write down your questions in the Q&A box that you will see in your screen. And we will go through all of your questions after the presentation. Before talking about the program, I will quickly introduce myself. My name is Stefania Giannoulidis. I'm half Italian and half Greek. At Hult, not only faculty and student body are international, but this is the case for the enrollment team as well. And I've been with Hult for 4 years now, working in the enrollment team with students from many different countries. At the moment, I'm based in Lucerne, and I'm responsible for master students. So if you will have any questions regarding also requirements or application process, feel free also to write them down in the Q&A box, and I will be happy to go through all of them after the presentation. I would like also to quickly introduce you the master programs that we are offering at Hult, which are all Master of Science. And we do offer a Master of International Business, which is the most general one, and 4 specialized master programs. So we have the Master of International Marketing, the Master of Finance, of Business Analytics, and of Disruptive Innovation. You may have noticed that the Master of Disruptive Innovation is offered only as a dual degree. At Hult, you have the opportunity to study 2 master's programs in 18 months. This would mean that you can start a master in international business, a master in marketing, a master in finance, or a master in business analytics, and add on top extra 6 months of a different master program. That could be marketing, finance, business analytics, or disruptive innovation indeed. You don't have to know right now when you're applying if you want to go for the dual degree. Your final registration would happen in class when you're already enrolled next September. But talking about application, I would like just to mention that our next deadline would be March the 5th, so it's approaching now. Our application process goes step by step. For the first step, you just need to start your application on hult.edu/apply. And one of our enrollment advisor will for sure get back to you and help you with all of the documents that you need to collect and with all of the next steps in order to complete then your application. Back with the Master of Business Analytics, the location for your home campus, so where you will be spending the first 8 months of the program, would be San Francisco. But still, you would have the opportunity to take advantage of the global rotation program, which would allow you to study in 3 different campuses and potentially in 3 different continents if you wish throughout 1 year of program. For example, you could start in San Francisco and then rotate to London and Dubai or to Shanghai and New York. So this is totally up to you. I've been recently talking to a current student from Germany, Laura Schweigert, and she was mentioning that everyone in the class had different ideas. Some of them would like to take full advantage of the rotation program. Some other decided to stay in San Francisco for some internship throughout their electives in summer. She also shared with me another funny anecdote that I will share with you as well. She told me that our students in Master of Business Analytics, they call themselves the pandas because of the dark circles under their eyes. So maybe later on, Marcelo and Prateek will tell us if this is true. And now, of course, I think that the best thing would be to go through the master program itself and the academic side of it. And I would be happy to introduce you Dean Luis Escamilla. He's actually also an Hult MBA graduate, and he started working for Hult in 2010 as a professor, actually. And after a couple of years, he became the dean of the Dubai campus. And afterwards, he became then the dean in Hult New York and then Hult Shanghai. And now is the dean for our undergrad and postgraduate programs in San Francisco. So I think it's the best example of the internationality of our faculty. And so thank you so much, Dean Luis, for being here with us today. And I would leave you the chance to introduce you further. And could you please share your screen with us?
Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today in this webinar about our Master of Science in Business Analytics. Before I go into my introduction, let me tell you something that I want you to remember. If you're not preparing today for the skills that are not only being demanded tomorrow or in the future, then where are you going to be in your career in the next 20 years? And the time to get ready in the skills of data analytics, business analytics, deep analytical skills is already upon us. This is equivalent to what we've been talking about for the past 20 years about you have to be computer savvy, and now it's just an expectation. They won't even write it in a job description. Everybody needs to know the fundamentals of computing and technology. This is the same for business analytics. Right now, employers are starting to say, you need to know R, you need to say Python. In few years, it's going to be an expectation to know these skills, and they won't even list them because everybody should have had them. So this is your opportunity to get ahead of the market and all the peers that are out there that are not investing in themselves in these skills. I am Dean Luis Escamilla, and as Stefania already mentioned, I come from industry background at the beginning. My background from an academic is on artificial intelligence, cybernetics, and mathematics. These are my degrees as an academic. And I became a business engineer applying these skills as I joined Procter & Gamble. I was the industry head analysis for Latin America. And I've also consulted for Google and Emirates MBD, which is one of the largest banks in the Middle East. I then went to Hult to do my MBA. The program in business analytics did not exist back then. Otherwise, trust me, that's what I would have taken. And shortly thereafter, I went into Hult to teach. And the course that they gave me was quantitative methods. Back in the day, this is in 2010, nobody wanted to take this course. People were very, very afraid just 9-10 years ago of getting their hands dirty with data. And I kept insisting with my students, we have to get comfortable with this. It looks very tedious, but trust me, this is coming. I wasn't mistaken, and those who took my advice, they have now advanced their careers further. I cannot blame our students of why they didn't want to take that course. Not only at Hult, but every other business school, the way we were treating these subjects were very, very theoretical. We were giving them formulas, algebra, derivatives. I remember I needed to teach them derivatives to business students, and I kept thinking, they're not going to do this in the actual business world. Why are we teaching this? So I spoke with the curriculum committee and I said, let's transform this course that uses math as a way to analyze problems and solve a business problematic through decision making. And once we made the transition, the quantitative methods course became one of the most popular. That was the time at Hult that we recognized we needed to bring more of these skills, but give them a very important spin into business. And as a result of that, that's when Hult asked me, well, you seem to understand a little bit more of curriculum and business. Why don't you join us in the DNRE team? As Stefania mentioned, I've been in many of our campuses. I was the global discipline lead for quantitative methods. I've run the New York campus, Shanghai, Dubai, and now it's an honor that I've been asked to move to San Francisco, where this is the place where everything business analytics is happening. And this is definitely the program that I'm most passionate about. And I want to see our students more students coming into this program because this is where the future is going. And so let me get into there. Why? I already tell you a little bit, but again, the program is fairly new for us at Hult, but we have seen that this is where graduate students are turning their heads into. In general, the Master of Science in Business Analytics, so if you were to look for this on job descriptions, they're starting to appear. Employers want to have a person who has an MSBA, not an MBA anymore. And so it is becoming more popular over year on year on year. The first time that we launched it, it was very demanded for us. And this time around, we have so many of you joining this webinar that we weren't expecting, but we're very excited to welcome you all here in San Francisco. This program is designated as STEM. What this means is that it belongs to the science, technology, engineering, and mathematics disciplines in the US. And what this means is that you could get up to 3 years of work authorization after you complete the program. I'll talk more about it in a second. But I wanted to be sure that you know that this is qualifies as STEM because it's very rigorous. We are going to do math. Remember, always applied into business. And what we're seeing right now here in San Francisco is that there is a shortage of people who have deep analytical skills. This is where the technology companies are based, and this is where their data scientist teams are predominantly based. They haven't branched out yet outside of San Francisco into those teams. They have kept them locally. This number, I got it from talking with my colleague from UCLA. He also launched recently this program, and they did some research to employers, and this is roughly the shortage of people that we see in the market. And these are the jobs that are out there, and companies are having a big problem in finding people who have these skills. Let me tell you a little bit about what exactly are we talking about, what you're going to be studying. So when you join us here in September, in the fall, these are the courses we're going to be looking at. Too fast. These are the courses we're going to be doing. We'll be doing quantitative methods, data science R, which is a programming language. We will be taking data management and SQL, which is database handling. And of course, very important, we need to be able to communicate the findings of our results. So we'll have a class on how to present data in a compelling way for people who may not be familiar with how the data was crunched and feel uncomfortable with data. And very important to have a story to tell. In the second semester, in the winter, what we call the winter, we will be doing introduction to data science. But now we're going to be doing that into Python. So as to acquire a second programming skill, which is highly demanded, we will be doing data modeling and optimization. So this is heavy modeling through spreadsheets and how to find the most optimal solutions for problems. We will be doing machine learning. This is what everybody's talking about. So it's an introduction to artificial intelligence, and it is the foundation for us to have computers taking over the jobs of people and for computers learning how to speak a language like Siri does. We will be doing big data analytics, which is how do we process this much data that is being generated out there through Twitter, Facebook, all the touch points that a consumer has with business. Where do we put these massive amounts of data? And how do we derive conclusions out of it? And very importantly, same as in the previous model, we always have a component in which we need to connect back to the business. And in this time is leadership. The expectation of where these 165 jobs that I mentioned before are coming from is that they're going to be the ones leading the data scientist teams, who are typically comprised by engineers. So we will never, and we need to be very clear on that, you will never become equally prepared as an engineer who studied for 4 years, data science, computer science, any of those disciplines. What we're going to be teaching you is how to speak with engineers and lead them, how to connect this to the business world. And Marcelo is going to talk a little bit more about that. But we will have a leadership track development that will help you to go a self-exploring journey. In order to lead others, we first need to understand ourselves. And you then get techniques and practical advice about how to get results through collaboration and through your people. Later on, when we move into the spring term, you're going to be pursuing your future challenge. This is a capstone project. This is where you're going to be getting your hands dirty all semester long. Our colleagues here, Prateek, is going to talk about the data sets. But in the future challenge, we then put together every single skill that you learn. It's a 3 to 4 weeks challenge. We give you a data set, it's kind of like a hackathon, and then you need to work intensively in teams under pressure, no major instruction for your faculty by then, and you need to solve a coding data crunching challenge. And lastly, you move into your electives. At this stage, you could choose to rotate. So while you do need to start in San Francisco, because this is the only campus at Hult that runs this program, you later on could decide to go elsewhere. I highly recommend that you take this opportunity, particularly that you go to parts of the world that maybe you haven't been exposed to, and that could be Dubai and Shanghai. In my experience, most of the students that come to us to Hult, unless they come from that part of the world, they've never visited these areas. And so from a globalization point of view, it's very important to understand the Middle East and to remove some of the paradigms that we have about that area. And Dubai is the perfect example in which truly East Midwest in a very safe, very westernized look and feel, but we still get to understand how the Middle East culture works. And China, we all need to understand how to do business with our colleagues from China. They are the largest country in the world. Either you're going to have a person on your team who comes from China in the workplace later on, your boss is going to be from China, your suppliers, your vendors, your coders. It's very important that we understand how they operate, because their minds, their culture, the way of thinking, the way of portraying themselves is very different from what we used in this part of the world. So I highly, highly recommend that when you join that moment, you attempt to expand your comfort zone and exit the West world. Now, back to the skills. I walk you a little bit through the curriculum. We've been running a lot of research ourselves to understand how to design this curriculum. And one of the companies we have partnered is called Burning Glass. They are a big data science or data scientist company, and they have collected thousands of job descriptions in the market, same as LinkedIn. And through the techniques I'm going to be teaching you here, they have been able to summarize what are the skills that employers want. I'll give you a few minutes to read them. So a few moments. So just go to the list. Look at the skills that I written on the screen. And think how different they are from what they used to be. Nobody is writing Excel, Microsoft Office, Word, which is typically what you would have seen in a job description just a few years back. There are some courses required on business, for example, economics, budgeting. However, if you look at the large majority of the skills, they have to do with an engineering, data science, business analytics field. And now you understand why I mean that we really need to get ourselves ahead of the game. If we don't have these skills, we're not going to be qualified to take the jobs that are constantly growing in the market. And now you see how most of the skills that are listed in this list, we are going to be covering them in our program. Not all of them. For example, we won't do Perl, we won't do Java development, because we cannot pretend one more time that you're going to acquire all of these skills in 1 year. But we're going to give you the most critical skills to be able to lead people who are more technical on them. Very important, don't read me wrong, it's not all about sitting behind a computer. This is not how business is conducted today. It has never been, and it will never become. We cannot forget that we work with people. Leadership skills are still in demand. Every single job description will call for collaboration, creativity, time management, people management, conflict resolution, interpersonal skills. And so our program has built that in as well, which is different from what other schools do, that they specialize in data and they neglect to round out on the leadership skills, which are extremely, extremely important. Let me give you a little bit of a glimpse of who is faculty who are teaching currently in this program. We have Professor Chase Koster. He teaches data science Python. He has a master's degree in big data and master's analytics, predictive statistics. And he led the largest team in China, if we go back to talk about that, about how to perform data analysis to make better decisions for one of the largest companies, home-state companies in the country. We have Professor Kari Guitart. She will be one of the ones that you're going to be meeting in leadership. So notice how I'm making emphasis on this. It's extremely important to develop your leadership skills. And she worked with, or she works currently with the White House, public relations. So she's very good at diplomacy, negotiating. And so she'll be one of the ones that you're going to be meeting during the program. We have, the next one is Professor Andrew Peinado. He is a graduate from Berkeley, and he will be teaching you data management and SQL. And another example we picked is Professor Thomas Kornicki. He will be teaching you data science in R. He works for Wells Fargo, and he has kicked off one of the largest data scientist teams in the bank to analyze patterns of their consumers, this is in the retail banking, and understand how can we serve them better. Lastly, why? Let's think a little bit of San Francisco. This is how a typical week or one of the weeks that our clubs and societies have put together looks like in San Francisco. If you look on the right, we had topics that are very related to your discipline. For example, we ran an artificial intelligence workshop. I believe this is from November. So this is a workshop that took place about 2 months ago, and every single day there was something interesting. But what I want to call your attention is that we are also running a series of workshops, aids on business. So for example, the Investing Club had a session about how to secure funding. So you were thinking to have a startup in data, which is something that is happening right now. You will also learn, because we are a business school at the end of the day, you will also learn those fundamentals. We had the African Club run a talk about the Black economy. This is how countries in Africa have really been revolutionizing mainly through mobile banking, the way the economy moves over there. And then we brought Tesla, which is one of the companies very well known for innovation and technology. And this was a Hult alumni of ours who joined the company, and he came to talk about what was the process to talk about it. The point that I want to leave you here with is that this is a natural place for us to be bringing companies that are in the landscape of data science, artificial intelligence. And so it happens very organically, and our clubs are very active, and this is all driven by them. Now, what can you expect afterwards? These are the typical jobs that we're seeing graduates in this discipline, not necessarily from Hult, because remember, our first class will graduate this August. What we see in the market is these are the jobs they're going into. And when you look at any of these jobs, you're going to see how they perfectly match with the most wanted skills that I showed you earlier. I said I'm going to talk about the OPT. This is very, very important that we understand what it actually means. And so OPT is an extension of your authorization to stay in the United States if you're not from this country, to be able to find employment. This is not a green card. This is not a free ticket to stay in the US just wandering until you find an employer. No, if you find an employer that wants to hire you because you have the skills, then you can activate your OPT, and you start activating it for 1 year. Let's say that you're still in the process of deciding to join Hult, but you're not so sure about joining this particular program of business analytics. If you end up going to our Boston campus to take some of the other programs, or here in San Francisco, for example, to do an MBA or an MIB, you could still be eligible for an OPT. So provided that you start in Boston or San Francisco, you will be eligible for this. If you're thinking of going to London, Dubai to do a different degree, then you don't qualify for the OPT. Now, very, very important, in order to activate or to extend your OPT to 3 years, you first need to be able to earn the first one, and the job needs to be relevant in the discipline of MSBA. So if you go too far away from the STEM, the science, technology, engineering, mathematics role, then the government may not give you the OPT extension for another 2 years. And it's very important that you know that this is something that you apply in combination with your employer. So as a student, you get automatically the 1 year if you find employment. You finish that first term, and then through your employer, you activate with the government, or you apply for the government for an additional 2 years. And so that's what I wanted to clarify, that it's not just a free ticket to be in the US for 3 years. You have to be employed, and there are steps, and there are some restrictions about which jobs you could take. We would like now to get you a little bit of a feel of what it is to be a student at Hult. So I have here with me one of our current students. His name is Prateek Moore. He is a national from India, and his previous background was in information technology. And he's here to share with you some insights about his application to come to Hult and what it has been to be part of this program.
Thank you, Dean Lewis, for introducing me. So, talking about the journey, how it's been like in Hult and how I came to Hult. I got to know about Hult from a friend who did his international business over here, and now he's working as a project manager in the Bay Area, one of the top companies here. And I got good reviews from him. And now when I'm here on the campus, I just so agree to him. And best thing I would say I liked about this course is its industry-oriented approach. And when I say that, I mean the data sets we get, it's all real-world data sets. The projects we get to solve is actually the straight comes from the organizations out there. And that's why when you prepare for your interviews or when you go out to work, so you feel pretty confident you have that upper hand. And it's not just as a business analyst, it's not just the technical side, but your soft skills are equally important. And that's what being in a business school helps. So we have courses that also enhances your leadership skills, plus develop the business acumen, which is very important to make decisions as a business analyst or a data scientist. And talking about the faculty, it's this amazing faculty, I would say, because the faculty are the data scientists or industry leaders, and they know what exactly is required in the organizations out there. And the way that they have designed the course, they teach us the topics, and it makes it very easy for us. The best thing I would say is we started a Python developing a game, and I can't imagine there can be a better way to learn Python. Same goes for R. It was made so easy for us to learn, and now I feel pretty confident. Although I had a background in IT, and talking about the professors, they're so approachable and they're available. And even if you want to not just take your class problems, but also you want to see how you can go about your background and align those skill sets in the real world, they always ready to help. Same goes for the career development team. You have one-on-one sessions. Apart from them, there are a lot of boot camps held that only makes life easy for you. And the other important things I would say is, we have so many events happening on the campus. Last week we had a fire chat with Apple, and every week there are some 2 or 3 events happening on campus, and you can choose from. And apart from the events, as you know, it's a global setup, not just in terms of nationalities, but also backgrounds. And when I go for the team meetings for solving a project, the perspective you get, a lot of insights you get from this various backgrounds is amazing. Like something I would have never imagined, and I get to know from them. It's really amazing. And being here in the Silicon Valley, in the San Francisco, things only gets better for you. And that's what I want to say about. So now I'll introduce my other cohort friend, Marcelo. Marcelo is also my cohort friend and student ambassador of Hult. He's also pursuing business analytics, and he's from Brazil, and he's a medical doctor. Over to Marcelo.
Thank you, Prateek, Dean Luis, and Stefania for inviting me for being here today. It's a really, really, really great pleasure to speak to prominent Hult students, because I was in your side last year, considering my options of studying abroad. It's interesting because I think I am one of the only medical doctors in campus in San Francisco, and I was just asking myself why a medical doctor would study in business school, especially in business analytics, which is a field with code, math, statistics, and stuff like this. Well, when I started to see the technological revolution in healthcare, I was seeing that everything is just running to that direction, to data, to data-driven decisions. Artificial intelligence is being a really hot topic in healthcare, for instance, for a lot of different applications, since imaging or automatization of lots of different tasks, and even in the management field for helping people in management of healthcare taking better decisions. And this made me really to turn my direction and to focus my career from now on the data side of healthcare. So in the last 10 years in Brazil, I had the opportunity of running lots of different projects in the healthcare industry, not only inside of hospital as a medical doctor, but as a manager of different initiatives, and some of them in the tech industry, which really made me more aware of the opportunities that we have in this field, and made me considering Hult as a really important step to leverage my career change to this industry right now. So it's funny because I entered Hult as a bilingual student speaking Portuguese and English, and I will graduate speaking 5 languages. And I think that's the only program at Hult that will give you this opportunity of speaking 3 languages more: SQL, Python, and R. And I besides of the pandas, that's the thing that's related to the time that we need to study and dedicate ourselves to this. It's a really interesting topic because we will be able to speak not only with our multilingual skills, of course, but speaking with machines and starting to help to build the bridges between business and technology to create new opportunities for the industry and becoming a very valuable professional. So just making a bridge to this, I like Dean Luis was saying, I see each day I'm seeing the importance of gluing codes, math, statistics, like he said, and business, because like Prateek said, we see a lot of people from companies coming here at campus and telling us that this isn't only about data, it's about seeing what are the challenges in the business and how to apply those skills in a more practical way to help leaders in business to get the best answer based on what you are doing to them. Recently, I watched the interview of one of the chief data scientists at Google, and she was just saying that recently she got in a meeting with some product managers, and they got into a challenge for the data science team. And the data science team worked for 10 days with a lot of algorithms, code, and Python and SQL, lots of stuff related to big data. 10 days later, they came back to the team, product management, with the answer, but there was the wrong answer because the question wasn't understood quite well. And this is a really good example of the importance that we have in paying attention to communication and the importance to work on the soft skills. And this is really important, especially in data science and in analytics, as my opinion, because most of people who work only with IT, they have this tendency of being more faced toward the code side of things and more the tech side of things. But we know that in business, it's all about teamwork, it's all about leadership, it's all about getting the right insight for the business to be in the right direction. So I think that those things are really important. And just to add up just a few more lines, the life in San Francisco, it's really amazing. There's a lot of social events for networking. So the agenda for meetups, it's just really insane because there is a huge amount of events, and for people in every kind of industry to be engaged with and to start to get into what is hot and what is in the boundary of technology and the application for industry. So I think that people who are considering being in the Masters of Business Analytics will be in a very hot topic in a very good school, because Hult, even if Hult is a small school, there is a lot of advantage in being in small schools, since you are even closer to faculty, which are really great faculty. We have amazing faculty here. This really surprised me by the first day that I came here, and close to the deans as well. So it's a really good thing. We have support from other departments as careers, for instance. We have career coaches that help us to connect with the best opportunities. Then they coach us on different abilities that you need to develop, since you are in a different culture and you need to communicate yourself. Sometimes you need to turn in your communication skills to a different culture. Like, for instance, by myself, to come from Brazil to the United States, I need to change some small things in my behavior just to get a better chance of getting in the front of the right people to get into the best opportunity. So just to sum up, I think that those are the things that really made me see now that I really made the best step and the best decision, probably one of the best decisions in my life, to be here in San Francisco, to study business analytics right now, and to be at Hult. Well, that's it.
Great. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Marcelo. Thank you so much, Dean Luis and Prateek, for your insights. Very, very interesting. And now we can open the Q&A sessions. So I would remember to all of the participants to write the Q&As in the Q&As box and not in the chat box. And yes, so the first question is actually related to the requirements. So if a TOEFL score is necessary and the GMAT score is necessary. So maybe I will answer this question briefly. Yes, we do need an English test and a GMAT test in order to get accepted in the program. However, you don't need to have those tests ready in the moment when you start your application, but you can start your application, we can go through the application process, invite you for a personal assessment interview, and then we will require that you send us also the test score. So yes, they would be necessary, but at the second step of the application. Then we have a question about accommodation. So what are the accommodation options? So maybe one of the two students can answer this question, either Prateek or Marcelo. Marcelo, you are not.
Let me begin with does the school offer the traditional college dorms? We do not have that. Therefore, each of us need to find our own accommodation. So could we hear, how was your process to find that in San Francisco?
For me personally, it was easy because I had my friends here. So I was like staying with them. But few things, there are like a lot of, so I would name a few, like Gateway and few other apartments very close to the school. So, and they're well furnished as well. So those are good options. It's just 15 minutes walk from there. And it's one things like not a lot of people know is that, you know, if you choose in the San Francisco limit itself, if you choose accommodation that is close to BART's station, it might be far, but it gets you here very quickly, and you save on accommodation as well.
Just to add up, yep. Thanks, Luis. Just to add up to what Prateek said, it's really interesting to say that San Francisco is a very walkable city. So it's very good to walk in the city. It's a very healthy and very fun to walk. It's a beautiful city, by the way, for those who don't know San Francisco. And the public transportation system, like Prateek said, is very good, which widens the options that we have about living. For instance, I live in the East Bay. It's around 60 kilometers or 40 miles from San Francisco, but I take the train every day. It's a really good commute. So it's a comfortable commute, and people, for instance, if you want to live by the bay in San Francisco area, it's a really good option as well. And when one of the most helpful things that I saw was the community that Hult provides for students in Facebook and other groups, for them to be acquainted and start to know each other. And this made, for instance, a lot of the students that we have in our cohort to live together with each other, sharing the apartment, or sharing the apartment with other colleagues from MBA, from other programs. And this is really nice because you start to get into a very interesting network. For instance, we have two friends, one from Nigeria and one from Argentina, who divide the same apartment. And it's a really interesting because they share a lot of stories with us about the difference that they have in culture. And we learn a lot of the stories that they share with us as well. So I think that this is one of the most interesting things when you start to considering it. The other thing is that our visas and compliance case gives us, in our case, 1 month before class starting for come here and start to seeking apartments and seeking other accommodations. So this time frame as well was really important to start to get into the best opportunities and seeing which accommodations we got. And finally, our dean, our associate dean, Amber, was really helpful as well during the first days of class, helping us to see if nobody found any other accommodation, to connect with other students who were hunting as well apartments so they could find the best accommodations together. And it was really helpful as well. So I think that we will be very well covered in options since you are living in the Bay Area or far with a good transportation system that we have here.
Great, thank you. Yes, and actually, thank you for mentioning also the Facebook groups. I think that for everyone who is still in the application process and is still like worried about the accommodation, this is the first step to get to know who would be your prospective classmates. And for sure, this is something that helps you a lot also for the accommodation search. So another question would be about rotation. And do you make visa and accommodation arrangement for the rotation program? Any of you guys is planning to rotate, and you want to answer this question?
Sure, I'll answer more on the overall rotation program. Yes, we do help. So, well, if you're rotating to New York or to Boston, there's nothing additional to do. It is exactly the same visa that you enter. You can travel within the United States at any time. If you want to go to London and you don't qualify for a visa on arrival, then we can provide you with a letter and the documentation for a short-term visa that will allow you to do the months of rotation. Dubai and Shanghai are very friendly visa countries for students. What this means is that you don't have to enter as a student to take courses there, different from the UK, where you have to enter a student or visa on arrival. And therefore, any visa that gets you into the country will suffice. For many nationalities, a tourist visa is easy to obtain. If you need to obtain a different type of visa, then the school can provide you, again, with a letter that helps you to apply. Now, for accommodation, same applies for us in San Francisco. We do not have our own accommodation in the other campuses either. However, the teams, student services teams, will help you to, or will guide you in which are the most popular places where our students still were in rotation. Another thing that I see that our students do is that they swap. So we all, similar to the Facebook group, you're gonna be joining right now as you're incoming into Hult San Francisco or any program you have chosen. When you rotate, we then open a Facebook group of everybody who's going into London, everybody who's coming into San Francisco, and then they start chatting and they realize that we could swap. So somebody who has a 1-year lease in San Francisco could then swap with a student who's going to London. And so in that way, nobody has to be out of pocket anymore. Of course, not all of the time matches, so don't expect that this will happen for all of you. And we do have to be active, but that's another possibility.
Great, thank you so much. And maybe, Dean Luis, you can also answer this other question. If
Sure.
I decide to participate in the rotation program and go to Dubai, will I still be able to come back and work in the United States?
Yes, the OPT, CPT, the 3 years, you're always eligible if you start in Boston or San Francisco. So if you start here, you can then later rotate to any campus you wanted. And when you come back, you're still eligible. What you cannot do is to start outside, say you go to Dubai and London, even if later you rotate to San Francisco and Boston, you won't have enough months in the country of being a permanent student, and so the OPT won't apply.
Great, thank you so much. Another question for the students, how does a typical day at Hult San Fran look like? Prateek, maybe?
So, yeah, I'll take that, yeah. So we have like classes, and so it's not a specific day, but one day we might have classes, and another day if you have projects, then you might be involved only in you'll be working with your team to solve those problems. So it's not a fixed day, and someday you'll be very much engaged in events, or there's some workshops, career workshops. So that's what I would say, that it's not fixed, but it varies as per the schedule and as per the modules. And it's like good experience to have on a daily basis. We have a very good cafeteria, so to use in the breaks, and on the surroundings is if you have a good break, it's just a Bay Area, and next year you can go and have a good break and come back to the other lecture. So yeah, that's a day, but it's not a fixed day, but it varies.
If I may add, what you need to think is you are a full-time student, so you need to allow us to steal the time from you, because in order for us to bring you the faculty that your classmates have described as amazing, they might be working. That's the case of Professor Thomas, as I was mentioning earlier. He is currently leading a data scientist team. So that's the way we bring practical experience into the classroom. So he has a normal job from 9 to 5. So the only time we can have him to go and share his wisdom is from 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. We may have another faculty member who, as I mentioned, is teaching at Berkeley in their data program as well. So this is very common in academia. We call that cross-fertilization. We want our faculty to teach elsewhere and faculty from other schools to come here as guest lecturers. Therefore, we have to share the schedule with that faculty elsewhere. And that's why Prateek is saying there's nothing typical about that day at home. One day we may have us at 8:30 a.m. and then we're free the rest of the day because we have to code. But another day might be that we have a break and we come back. And another day might be that we made us come here on a weekend because that's when we needed to do a challenge of crunching and we needed 8 hours. So be mindful with us that we are stealing the schedule from you to give you the best possible experience that you have. And we do publish the schedule 1 month ahead of each semester. So in that sense, you can plan ahead the next semester what it's going to look like, and we don't make change. Unless something major happens, we don't make changes to it.
Great, thank you so much. Then we have a couple of questions for me, probably, for the enrollment. Are there scholarships for students? So yes, there are. We have merit-based and need-based scholarships, and each of the students can apply for the scholarship together with the application process for the program itself. This means that once you would be notified about your decision, the admission decision, you would also know about your scholarship award, so that you would know exactly if you have been awarded a scholarship and how much, and you would know exactly the investment that you would be doing. And there is another question for the requirements. If I've taken an MIM and then I want to do the business analytics as part of the dual degree program, is the GMAT required in this case as well? No. If you take the Master of Business Analytics as a dual degree, you are not required to send an additional GMAT score. Then we have a nice question about what are the prerequisites for getting high chances to get into the Master of Business Analytics. I would maybe put it a bit deeper in saying who is the perfect student for the Master of Business Analytics. So maybe you can tell us, guys, Marcelo and Prateek, who is in your cohort? So who are your classmates, basically? Maybe Marcelo, you can tell us something?
Oh, sure. Yesterday we were discussing with Dean Luis one of these things because this is one of the information we've really got a surprise. Most of people in our cohort don't have a computer science background. They are from a lot of different backgrounds, from management to engineering, chemical engineering, production engineering, or even finance, social studies, architecture, lots of different industries, healthcare, and even NGOs. We have Lani, for instance, which is our colleague who got huge experience from NGOs. He trying to compete on the Hult Prize. Unfortunately, she didn't qualify, but she is running her startup right now with other colleagues from our cohort, and they are running into the entrepreneurship track. But coming back to the requirements, I think that the most important requirement that we got, in my opinion, of course, I would like to hear Prateek as well, is to fit with the Hult DNA, which is one of the things that intrigued me at first when I applied, because I couldn't understand quite well. But when I got accepted and I started to study and I started to get into the team meetings, the multiculturality, the importance that Hult emphasizes every day, that soft skills are the most important thing in the long run, regardless of your coding skills, which are very important as well to get the work done, of course. But those prerequisites of getting into this whole DNA, which is one of the things that my enrollment advisor as well helped me a lot to understand. I think that those are the most important things that you need to be concerned when you consider a program like this.
Thank you, Marcelo. If I may, I will allow Prateek just briefly.
Yes.
If you feel yourself that you are a master in R and a master in Python, and you've been working on it for the last 10 years, almost when it was created, I would say this is not then the right program. Because we're not gonna, this is not gonna get you, it's not a PhD program. You're not gonna develop the next algorithm in how to crunch data. We're gonna teach you the foundations of it so you can later go and work with the people who maybe have that experience, that have a problem communicating with the business world. So the way I always explain to my students when they arrive is, you are gonna be the bridge. You're gonna be the one who communicates with the ones who are deep. Every day, all they do is crunch numbers behind the computer, and the business owners who maybe haven't been exposed to the skills. Prateek, would you like to add?
Same thing, talking about having a technical background or not, I would say irrespective if you have a technical background or not, faculty members make sure it's pretty easy for you. The way the course is designed, it's, I mean, I know there are a lot of people who are worried don't have technical background, and now they are doing very well, because it's when you go about looking at a problem, you just don't look from a, because you are not a software engineer, no. It's, you don't just look from a technical perspective, but you try to find a logic behind it. What's business outcomes of it, and that's when you dig deep into that problem. Analytics is one important aspect of it, but it's not the only part of it. And the way it's covered over here with the professors from, they're working as well. They're data scientists and they're industry leaders, and so they know what exactly is required in the outside world. And that's when they make sure they convey that all those things are reach to us in a very simplified, easy manner. Yeah, that's what I would say. You don't have to really worry about the background.
Great. So basically, to the question, do I have to be a system engineer to be in the program? You would answer no, right? Great. Perfect. So then I have another question regarding the requirements. So I have taken an English proficiency test from my university. Can I send this? Unfortunately not. Since we have students coming from all around the world, we need to be a bit objective with this. So we would accept IELTS, TOEFL, or Cambridge Advanced. In case you have studied all of your bachelor's in English, this is a bit different, but I would suggest you to speak with your enrollment advisor directly, because they could give you the precise information regarding your case, your country, your school, and etc. Always feel free to get in touch with the person who is contacting you. So we always have this way of speaking and contacting our student in the moment when they start their application process, and we follow them until the moment when they're in class. So feel free really to ask to your enrollment advisors any question or any doubts that you have related to your application. And then there is a very detailed question. Maybe Dean Luis, you can help me with this?
Is this the Master in Finance, dual degree, Business Analytics?
Correct. So
let me take that one.
You can read it out loud and then answer
let me
it.
read it. So I have a CPA, or the equivalent of a CPA in India, and I have applied for a dual degree in the Master of Finance, followed by the Business Analytics. Should I take them in any order? And what is it with the dual degree? Let me share a comprehensive brief on dual degrees to set the expectations. You do not have to take them in any order. The programs are complementary to each other. So one doesn't depend on the other, and there is no overlap from one to the other. So if you do the Master degree Finance first, you're going to be focusing on financial statements, investment portfolio, risk management. There's a little bit of taxation, international finance, treasury, cash flows. Then you do the Business Analytics, which is all what we talked today. It's about R, Python, programming, coding. It will be helpful that you know some finance, maybe, because those two disciplines are very numeric, but you could equally have done them the other way around. And first you get the Python R, then you move into the other ones. What I do want to say is that, as Stefania has mentioned, nobody has applied, nobody has registered to a dual degree. We first need to, in academia, we first need to earn our first acceptance into one degree. And so you need to focus on one. So whatever you decide you're going to study first, you work all your application against that. In your mind, you may have been thinking already what you're going to do 1 year from that time. And you maybe already told your enrollment advisor, but that doesn't count to us. We first need you to complete your application for one. We need you to see that you're coming to Hult. Once you arrive to Hult, then we will start the application process for your second degree, to which you all qualify. And there are two very important items that get our students out of the dual degree because they don't follow the process. So I want to tell you right now, so that later this doesn't happen to you. When you come to campus, we're going to tell you that you then need to follow a very simple, it's literally write your name on a form, on an electronic form, that you tell us that you are doing the dual degree. If you miss a deadline, it's equivalent to missing a deadline right now for the scholarship, then that train is gone. You won't be able to do the dual degree. And later, at that stage, a lot of people think that they're doing the dual degree, but then they find employment, or the companies that they were before, they ask them, hey, these things are collapsing without you, can you come back? Or they change their mind. I've seen some of our students fell in love and they follow their partner to another country, and then they don't do the dual degree. That causes an issue for us because we cannot plan if we don't know who's coming. So once you come to Hult and you write your name on a piece of paper, we're going to ask you to give a security deposit of $2,000, which will cover your insurance and the textbooks for the second degree. And this to us means guarantee that you are really going to do this, and then we can get hiring faculty members, planning cohorts. So it's very important that you meet these two deadlines, but you have nothing to worry about right now for the dual degree. This will happen once you come to Hult.
Great. Thank you so much for the clear explanation. And actually, we have another question related to the tuition fee for the dual degree. And this is also another very important point. Basically, for the students that would be applying within this deadline, the 5th of March, and they would then confirm their seat on time, the second degree would be covered by a full scholarship. So the dual degree in this case would have no additional costs. So what I would suggest then in this case, if you feel that you would potentially like to do the dual degree in the future, the best thing to do would be to start your application with the scholarship deadline. As Dean Luis said, you are not deciding right now that you want to do the dual degree. You will have to enroll once you are on campus. Once you're on campus, you will receive precise information about the deadlines. Just follow those deadlines and everything will be all right. So,
Stefania, and if you may, if you allow me to be sure, because I see sometimes our terminology is not so clear for people who are not in academia. When Stefania says that there's no additional cost, she means tuition. There is no additional tuition if you follow every single step that your enrollment advisor is telling you to do, which again, there are deadlines. If you miss the deadline, you may not have the scholarship for the dual degree, in which case, then there is tuition. Regardless of whether you receive a scholarship or not in tuition, of course, there are costs associated to the program. One of them I just mentioned is insurance. You have to have insurance in the US if you're a student, and so you have to be insured a second year. And that's the fee that I'm referring to that we're gonna ask you to pay earlier to be sure that you're coming. And we have to pay a fee to our partnership, which are the library, Harvard cases, data sets, and this is what we call course materials. And of course, there are living expenses costs. So for example, the question about going to a master in finance and then a master in business analytics, you then need to fly from Boston to San Francisco and you need to then enter a second lease agreement. So there are costs associated to being a student in general. It's just that if you qualify for the scholarship, they might not be tuition fees. And I want to clarify that because sometimes some of our students feel that there was nothing left to pay for the second time. But of course, you need to live somewhere, you have to fly, you have to be insured, and there's meals and accommodation to be paying in your second degree as well.
Thank you. Well, thank you for the clarification. And we have a last question about basically careers. So what would you be doing then after the program? So what our alumni doing in the industry? So maybe I would change the question since Dean Luis already spoke about career opportunities after the program. Maybe I could ask to you guys, and we leave this as a last question, maybe both Marcelo and Prateek, where would you like to be after the master program if you already have a goal and if you already are working with career services in order to reach this goal? Maybe Marcelo can start and then Prateek.
Oh yeah, I will be very short on this one. I started thinking about working for big companies, but since I spoke a lot with lots of different people in meetups and even with our career services as well, we started to envision the huge amount of opportunities that we have, for instance, in San Francisco with startups. And this is one of the hottest places in the world if you want to work for a startup and start to work on a very different kinds of projects. So my focus right now is seeking startups who are looking for internships or looking for people who have my kind of skill sets. And I'm really focused on starting to work with people who are disrupting the healthcare industry.
Thank you so much, Marcelo. What about you, Prateek? Wait, you are not on mute. Can you unmute yourself?
So before talking about my personal goal, I would say something last month we had a seminar with or a networking event with our Hult alums, and most of them, we got a networking opportunity, and most of them were product managers and data scientists or data analysts. And just to answer that question directly, and talking about my own personal goal, I have a background of content management as well. So even for Hult, I write blogs. So I have a good understanding of content, text. So qualitative research and is something I have an option as well. So text analytics is something we also learn during our machine learning classes as well. So that's also one option I'm looking into, or going into text analytics, because I understand content better, and having that combination of analytics and content is something that drives me towards that. And apart from that, it's not just working for the big companies, but there are so many startups in the Silicon Valley, and working them, you get an opportunity to give your best. Because I had a venture back in Mumbai, my own venture, where I did market research, market analysis. So that experience also helps me to work for the startups over here, and having that acumen of business and analytics is something I can contribute to the startups as well. That's all.
Great. Thank you so much, Prateek. And I think we can close here. There was one last question, and I will answer very briefly. Sheila is asking, what is the rate of employment of graduates in the US, especially international students? 60% of our international students are actually then employed in the United States. So I think that we can be pretty proud with your percentage. And also 87% of our graduates find a job within 3 months after graduation. So regarding careers, I think that we are quite safe here. And I would like to thank you everyone for attending the webinar. And thank you very much, of course, to Dean Luis and to Prateek and to Marcelo for presenting and for answering all of the questions. Thank you very much, everyone, and have a nice day, evening, or night.